Welcome to the session on mindfulness, awareness, and compassion practice. What we'll do today is, as we usually do, a sequence of practices. And I wanted to talk a little bit today about a topic that I was discussing in another meeting, and that is, what do we do after we do our sitting meditation practice? It's talked about as post-meditation, and we can also talk about it as everyday life and how we go about things. One of the reasons in this practice that we do our awareness practice and our mindfulness practice with our eyes open is because of that transition, that we don't want to separate out. Okay, this is when I'm going to get calm and meditative and close my eyes and go inward and deep and all that. And then we open our eyes and, uh-oh, what do I do with all of this? I was fine in here, but now I've got to go out there. So we, in the tradition I was taught, we practice with our eyes open because then we're going to extend it out. Now, another kind of intermediate practice is called walking meditation. It's done in a very formal way in the Zen tradition. You know, you take a step and pause, and then take another step and pause, and another, and it's somewhat elaborate. And the way I was taught was a little more relaxed, but attentive, and a little more, and basically more natural. So the idea is, and you can do this at home or in your yard if you want to practice this. And for those of you who are golfers, this is really helpful because you can do it when you're walking on the golf course. And that is, instead of awareness of the breathing, we move our awareness more to the movement of our legs and our feet. How we swing our legs and place our feet, and our weight shifts and we move to the other foot, and walking in that way and feeling the earth underneath us, feeling the ground underneath us. If you have in your home, if you have a long hallway, you can walk the length of the hallway, then turn around and walk back. And again, you do it with good posture, your eyes open. Your arms can just hang naturally at your sides, or again, similar to the Zen tradition, you put one hand in a fist, the other hand on top of it, and you put both of them at your navel. So it would be like this, standing like this. See if I can get it to appear, just like that. And you just walk that way, maybe a little below, right about your belt, so that it's not uptight and not just hanging loose. And then your gaze, if you're going to do this walking, is straight in front of you and open so that you see what's on the ground in front of you so you don't trip, and you see what's out there in front of you, and you see the sky above you. You get the full picture. If you're indoors, it's just the whole space that you're walking through. And then so in that way, you start to adapt your mindfulness so that you're not just sitting still, but you're actually mindful in action and aware of what's going on, aware of the sounds around you, aware of what you're seeing, and particularly aware of what you're feeling as you move through that space. And one thing that's helpful in our everyday life, we tend to, because there's so much input, our thoughts get very busy and very convoluted. Arguing with ourselves, making complicated plans about things that probably won't happen the way we the way we think they will. And and if our awareness moves down into our body and particularly into our legs and feeling the ground under our feet, that's about as far out of our heads as we can be, feeling the ground under our feet. And we can feel some spaciousness around the thoughts. The idea is not to block thoughts and say, thoughts, bad, don't want to have any. Because they will just take that as an invitation and say, oh yeah, well watch this. And your thoughts will flood you. So instead, it's say, well, thoughts are happening, but they're happening in a bigger perspective, in a bigger space. And within that, then we can decide how to respond to our thoughts rather than being pulled along by them and reacting to them as if they're real. Because we have to have a sense of humor about our thoughts. And I keep coming back to, I'm not sure where this saying comes from, but it's people plan and God laughs. And so having a sense of humor about our plans and our ideas about how things are and how they must be and how they were and how they need to be, and all of that is exhausting. So when we have that bigger perspective, it also gives us more flexibility. And flexibility is so important because if you need things to come out exactly the way you want them to come out, you're going to have a lot of disappointment. And my teacher liked to say, no appointments, no disappointments. So if you are flexible about working with things however they turn out, rather than I need them to come out this way or it's a disaster, everything gets more relaxed and everything becomes more workable. And workability is what we're talking about. How you can work with situations and move them in directions that match your intention without needing them to be a particular way or everything. It's too on off. It's to one or the other. And instead of either or, we want to try to work with both and. How do we work with all of it without rejecting part of it and being attached to another part of it? That doesn't mean we can't be discriminating and say, well, I prefer this and I'd prefer not having that. Fine, we have our preferences. It's the difference between wanting it to happen that way and needing it to happen that way. I work with my golf students and I say, I want you to repeat after me. I want to hit this shot on the green. And they go, I want to hit this shot on the green. Now say, I need to hit this shot on the green. And I ask them, just saying that one different word, what does that do to the tension in your body? Huge difference, huge difference. Well, let's look at how that happens in our everyday life and be aware. Do I want it to happen or am I approaching it with I need it to happen? And as I was doing it, I noticed what my hands were doing. I was saying, do I want it to happen or do I need it to happen? And just let's all do that with our hands as well. Just say, I want this to happen, and then go, I need this to happen. And the clenching and tension, it's you against the world and you're fighting with the world rather than dancing with the world. So let's dance, shall we? Okay. So that's the basic overall of how you can take whatever we're doing today and bring it into your everyday life. Now, when we do our practice, because we're going to be doing it with our eyes open, we're going to start with our eyes closed and do a grounding and centering practice. then mindfulness, then awareness, and then some compassion contemplations. So you're going to want to either move your seat or your device so that you're not looking directly into the screen the whole time. Not so good for your eyes. Okay? So we do this practice sitting because we're working on developing the rhythm and the experience of being mindful and noticing whether we're present or whether our mind is wandering. And when we realize it has been wandering, we're already back. And being aware of what our intention was, remembering our intention and refocusing. And that's what we take out into everyday life. If we're walking and our mind wanders, as soon as we realize it, we're back in our body rather than off in a daydream, and we reconnect with our intention of feeling how our legs and feet are interacting with the ground. To develop that familiarity, we do the sitting practice. And that's because if we lie down, we tend to fall asleep. If we start standing up, we get too busy, and we need to first establish the ground of stability. So take your seat. If you're on a chair, you can have your feet flat on the floor, about hip width apart, where your upper legs are perpendicular to the floor, not stretched out or tucked under. And if your legs are longer, and so that your knees are higher than your hips, just cross your legs there at the ankles, cross your feet, and let your knees open up so that they're lower than your hips. That'll take the strain off your upper legs and back. You want your torso upright, but not rigid, so that you feel like you're sitting up, and you can let your sternum, the center of your breastbone, raise up and forward just a tiny bit. You'll feel it pull your shoulders back and open up your chest for your breathing. It does a lot of good things, just a tiniest bit, 1/4 of an inch up and forward. And it gives you a feeling of uprightness and dignity. It's a dignified posture that way. Now, when that raises, don't let your chin go up. Keep your chin level, and it'll tuck in naturally, so that the back of your head is straight up and down, not tilted back or tilted forward. And that there's a line, it'll feel like a line from the back of the top of your head all the way down to your tailbone. There's a natural curvature in your spine, but it's a sense of straight up and straight down. Your arms, again, your upper arms are vertical, perpendicular to the ground. And your forearms and hands, your forearms go along your thighs, and your hands are palm down on each thigh, respectively, just behind your knees. So you're not reaching out forward or pulled back artificially. Just upper arms hanging down naturally, forearms along your thighs. We're breathing in through our nose. If some air comes out through our mouth as well as our nose, that's fine. And so your lips can be just very, very slightly parted or very lightly touching. We want our jaw relaxed, but we don't want our mouth hanging slack open. And for this part, our eyes are closed. And just tune into being fully in your body, inhabiting your body, so that it's not like you're up in your head. It kind of goes with the walking mindfulness that we talked about before, of really feeling your whole body. Feel your sit bones pressing into the chair. Feel your feet against the floor. Feel if you're tilted forward or back, left or right, and find that centered place. Notice if you're that clenching we were talking about, of need, that went with needing versus wanting. Notice if there's clenching in your face or jaw, your neck or shoulders, your chest, your lower back, your deep belly and pelvic region. Often we're clenching there and don't even realize it. We're clenching our shoulders and holding them up and don't even realize it. Just let it all soften. Let all that extra tension soften and flow down and out of you. Only using the tension that you need to keep your sternum raised and your back straight. Let your awareness drop down deep into your core. Just below your navel, in the center of your body, just in front of your spine. Feel the depth forward and back. We're not two-dimensional images like we see in a mirror. We have depth front to back. You can feel that as you breathe in. What's happening, your diaphragm is pushing down to breathe, to pull in the air. And that makes it feel like your deep belly is expanding. And then when the diaphragm goes up to push out the air, it feels like your deep belly is contracting. So feel that expanding and contracting. You can take a couple of deep breaths to really get that feeling. And then relax your breathing. Just let it happen naturally. Be an observer rather than a director or controller of your breathing. I promise you can trust your body. It will keep breathing without you doing anything about it. Just let your awareness rest there in that internal sensation of expanding and contracting, as if you're filling and emptying that deep core of your torso. That's the main object of your attention, with some attention in the background to your posture. Being aware, while you're mindful of your expanding and contracting in your deep belly with the breathing, you're also aware of your posture. And let your eyes gently open about halfway so that you're looking diagonally downward, just a couple of feet in front of you. But rather than focusing on where your eyes, what you're seeing at the end of your field of vision, soften your gaze. Let it blur a little bit so that there's just attention to your breathing, but awareness of your posture and the space that your body's sitting in. So that's our objective right now, is to maintain that mindfulness of our breathing. At the same time, the mind does tend to wander. And so if you find that you've wandered into a daydream, as soon as you realize it, a series of thoughts that have taken you away, as soon as you realize it, you're already back in the present moment. Just return your attention to the deep belly and your awareness to the posture and the space. We'll do that for a few minutes. If your eyes have closed and you've gotten drowsy, just refresh your posture and open your eyes all the way, just looking naturally out in front of you, but again maintaining awareness of the space, the posture, but focusing on the deep core, expanding and contracting. If your mind's been busy and off in thoughts most of the time, maintain a sense of humor. That's what the mind does. Just smile and go, ah, that was wandering. I'm already back. It's our natural function to come back rather than to be off. Being off in thoughts is added on top. Our nature is to be present. So relax in that. We'll practice for a couple minutes more. As the gong fades, refresh your posture, move a little if you need to, so that you're not stiff or in any kind of pain. And when you're ready, take that good posture again. And this time, eyes fully open, looking out in front, not particularly directing your eyes above or below, but letting them rest naturally, which will be slightly below the horizon, especially if you have the back of your head upright and your chin tucked in a little bit rather than floating up. Now, as our focus shifts to the breath going out into the environment. We were internally focused before, and now that our mind's a little more stable and we're aware of how it moves off into thoughts and comes back to the present, aware of our breath going out, use the breath as a way to ride your awareness out into the space. The breath goes out and it actually mixes with the atmosphere in the room and diffuses and becomes one with the atmosphere in the room. In the same way, let your awareness, instead of focusing here, open out further and further and further. As the breath diffuses into the room, let your awareness open to the space. Open your peripheral vision. Open your ears to sounds from all directions. Open your awareness to your body, smells, tastes, and open your awareness to thoughts, as we talked about before. Let the thoughts happen in that bigger space. They come up, they last for a moment, they dissolve, like bubbles coming to the surface. Think of thoughts that way and let them come and go within that bigger space. As the breath goes out, you can rest in that space. You don't need to keep following it. After a few breaths, to move your awareness into openness, just rest in that openness. And notice how your mind moves from sights to sounds to smells to tastes. Open space. Perception all happening in the present moment. And again, if you get caught up in a daydream, just smile and come back to the body, then the out-breath, then the spaciousness. We'll do that for a few minutes. As the gong fades, we can think about beyond our walking meditation ourselves after our sitting, that we encounter other people. And encountering other people, if we understand our own tension, needs, clenching, fighting with things, and then being able to relax that, and how more workable things seem, realizing our own experience of that, we can put ourselves in other people's shoes and go, oh, so many people don't know. They're walking around all clenched up and don't even realize it. And so create the feeling of caring for others and wishing that they could have that kind of relaxation of tension, relaxation of struggle. Breathe in, feeling how much you want to help others. Breathe out and feel like you're sending them that good energy to relax the tension, to relax the struggle. To have a gap in how much unnecessary suffering we all create. Know that there are times when we ourselves forget and get caught up in the struggle. So have compassion for yourself as well. Breathe in and engender that feeling of loving heart and send out that softening, that acceptance, that letting go of struggle to yourself and others. Just work with your breathing in that way for a couple of minutes. You might feel sadness as you breathe in and feel connected to how much suffering there is in the world. And feel joy as you send out that energy of acceptance, trust, workability, ease, and contentment. And now you can let go of that imagination and come back and stabilize again. Just lower your gaze, be fully in your body, filling and emptying as the breath goes in and out. And know that you can always take a time out in whatever you're doing. Just pause and take a few breaths. Feel your body out of your head and into your body. And then from that more stable basis, you can engage. If the phone rings, use it as a signal to take at least one full breath and then answer. If someone says something to you, let there be a little pause and then respond rather than react. In that way, we bring spaciousness throughout our lives and everything becomes more workable. So thank you for your kind attention in your practice. And we can have some discussion, but for now, this concludes our session of mindfulness, awareness, and compassion practice.